Hockey, yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into Judd's Hockey Show. Judd and Declan. Since we talked to you last time, the Wild actually had a far too exciting game with the Nashville Predators, in which they led by a couple of goals, blew the lead in the last minute of the game as none other than Nino Niederreiter tied the score. And then shortly after that, Jonas Brodin took a shot that hit Ryan Hartman in the chest and bounced into the goal, and the Wild had a win. So the Wild plays the Los Angeles Kings tonight. We are recording this on Tuesday morning. The Wild 65 points is 2 up on Calgary, which lost to Philadelphia for the second and final wild card spot. Colorado Avalanche are in third place in the Central, only 2 points ahead of the Wild. But, of course, those 2 points come from the game that Marc-Andre Fleury started last Wednesday, which was a disaster for the Flower. Filip Gustavsson has started both games since. And, Declan, we have some trade scuttlebutt, some more, and right. We'll have plenty of this until March 3rd. I want to get to a note that I actually got regarding the Wild's involvement in our comments on Saturday on the Ryan O'Reilly trade. But why don't you give us the latest name that you were telling me about that's been unearthed in the Wild trade scuttlebutt discussion?
Yeah, I saw on The Athletic, because I know, and you might be even able to add this a little bit, there was a ton of scouts at the Xcel Energy Center over the weekend, one of them being the Detroit Red Wings assistant general manager, Sean Horkoff. And the Wild, according to The Athletic from Michael Russo and Joe Smith, have expressed interest in pending free agent Tyler Bertuzzi. And I think it's a little, I think what they're insinuating here too, and they're reporting that they've expressed interest, but also when an assistant GM himself, not just a scout, right? Not just some slappy scout that every team employs, and I don't mean to crap on scouts, but when the assistant GM actually shows up to watch someone, there is clear, at least there's been more than just dialogue, right? There's been more than just hey, we're interested in this guy. Do you want to facilitate a trade? So Tyler Bertuzzi, I believe a pending UFA as well. A guy who scored 30 goals a season ago, but this year has been hurt, hasn't been the same player. Does Tyler Bertuzzi do anything for you, Judd Zulgad?
He does in the short term. Keep in mind, so the Eastern Conference is weird because, one, it's super competitive, and two, Detroit right now has 60 points, which puts them well out of the potential pecking order of playoff teams in the conference, but it only puts them 4 points behind the Florida Panthers for the second and final wild card spot, and 5 points behind the Islanders for the first wild card spot. So one is, I think Detroit's very much probably undecided on what their direction is, because they've been trying for a long time now to get back to relevance. Steve Yzerman's a good GM. He's going to drive a tough bargain. The interesting thing that Detroit has long-term is they are trying to get a deal done with, of course, hometown hero Dylan Larkin. And he is a marvelous player. He should stay there. But Stevie Y, in Stevie Y fashion, is trying to, I think the Larkin camp would say, lowball him. So then the question gets to be, from a salary cap standpoint, how much cap are you going to take in from your existing players? But one, I'm not convinced that Bertuzzi is for sure available. Like, I think he's being probably dangled out there as far as teams are concerned. But I don't know that that's going to be a realistic one. And the other thing that I want to get into, and we talked about this on Saturday, and I got pushback on Twitter from a viewer, and I appreciate it, but I think it's worth a discussion. So I said, when the Wild served as facilitators in picking up 25% of Ryan O'Reilly's salary cap hit, which we talked about, and facilitated the trade with the Toronto Maple Leafs and St. Louis Blues, I said, I think that gives you a clear direction of where Bill Guerin's head is.
Right.
The note I got back is, no, they've still got a ton of cap space, which they do for the time being. It means nothing. It's just they got involved, blah, blah, blah. And it's a good point. My comeback was, I understand all that, but I think it's tipping their hand. And when we're talking about guys whose contracts are going to be up, who the Wild can in no way, shape, or form keep, all right? We give credit to Bill Guerin last year for going all in on us on some players, and definitely feeling like a team that was really good in the regular season had a chance. Bill Guerin's not a dumb dude. And Bill Guerin, I don't think it's going to pursue fool's gold. So my point on the O'Reilly trade was, I think that's much more instructive of where he's at. And I don't think barely getting by Nashville or, what, a 2-1 win against Dallas in OT is going to cause Bill Guerin to say, hold on a second here. We are scoring goals again, and we got a chance to make a playoff run. I just don't see it. So my point is, I think the O'Reilly trade is instructive of where his mind is at. And I would be incredibly surprised to see him give up what the asking price would be, Declan, for a Bertuzzi from a farm system that is growing, that is really good, and that I think gives you a lot of hope for the future. I don't know that you're going to want to start to deconstruct that right now, because I just don't think this team is that competitive. I think they're okay, but I don't look at them and say, man, if you had a top 6 guy, that is going to take you on a playoff run. I know the Western Conference is jumbled, but I just don't think that's how Bill Guerin thinks.
So let's stick on Bertuzzi here just for a second before we get into the acquisition or the price it would acquire to get him. So, he had 30 goals last season and just 68 games too, by the way. So he had 62 points in 68 games. 2 seasons before that, full seasons, I should say, 21 goals. So he's a decent goal scorer. He's 27 years old. Not the same game-breaking level that Kevin Fiala would be, but certainly a welcome addition, most likely, right, pairing with Matt Boldy. That gives Boldy another dynamic player to play with. He will be turning actually 28 here in a couple days, so he'll be entering his age 28 season starting next year. Currently, cap hit-wise, he's making 4.7 AAV, so he's in due for a potential raise there. I don't think it's a significantly big raise. I would be shocked if it was even at 6. I think it's somewhere between 5 and 6 personally. Now he might hold out and say, no, I do want more than 6. When I've been on the ice, I've been a damn good player, but I'm just, that's me being a projected cap geek there, that he's probably going to command somewhere between 5 and 6 million AAV. Again, a true UFA to this summer. So no RFA status. The team doesn't control his rights. He can negotiate with any team starting in the offseason. Adding to the list too of what the Wild could give up, Jordan Greenway's name's also been bandied about. I don't think it's just a player-for-player swap, Tyler Bertuzzi for Jordan Greenway necessarily, because that would be obviously a pretty lopsided trade from Detroit's side of things. But is it Jordan Greenway, which would free up $3 million, also with a future second-round pick, future third-round pick?
More than
more.
More? Stevie Y is one of the best. He built Tampa Bay. No, it's probably a first-round pick. It's probably a first-round pick or prospects. And Greenway, he'd take him as a throw-in.
Right, yeah, he'd be the...
Jordan Greenway would mean nothing to Steve. So it would be a first-round pick and Greenway. He'd be taking Greenway as a courtesy. But, I don't think from Bill Guerin's standpoint, look, I have advocated trying to get Boldy with better players, but I don't think I'm going to give up young potential right now. And I am certainly, this show has made it very clear before, we are not prudes on trades. So this is not I love my farm system, I'm never going to give in, but that's all timing, right? Do you want to give up when you watch this team? How much do you watch this team and think, okay, I'd give up some substantial assets because I think that they can make a run? I don't see it. They can't score goals 5-on-5, not consistently. And before anybody mentions scoring 3 of 4 goals 5-on-5 against the Predators do the Suter and Parisi Wild teams proud in lack of give a damn. Yeah. And then, of course, they come back and they're like, oh, look at Nino scored the tying goal. Oh, bleep you guys. You guys are lazy and you're not that good. So the reality is, Bill Guerin has said from his mid-season sort of state of the Wild update decks, he has said, I'll do what this team sort of instructs me as far as what I see from them. And he's a pretty down-to-earth, normal guy. So, I don't think he's one of these pie-in-the-sky guys. So the reality is, I don't think they've shown him enough to make a significant trade for a guy who's going to almost certainly walk, because you simply can't afford to keep him.
Yeah, it would be a tougher one if they're not just going to give him away for free. But look, they lack a dynamic scoring forward. They missed that with Kevin Fiala, and although Bertuzzi not the same caliber player of ceiling of Fiala's ability, I would be interested in this. I wouldn't rule this out. And if you could get him for the right price, I would be in on a trade like this. I think he'd help out your offense. You can potentially control him for a few years, makes things easier for you. I'd be interested in this. And yes, it does come down obviously to the acquisition, of course, like all trades do. But I wouldn't be completely out on this trade. I actually really like Tyler Bertuzzi. I think it'd be a great pair with Matt Boldy. I'd be in on potentially trying to pull a trade down with this guy.
Yeah, I just think by the time I think we're close enough to the deadline now, the prices are going to be high. And
Yeah.
I just don't think that this team is worth, unlike a year ago, I don't think this Wild team is worth investing in. I just don't. I don't see the run. I don't see enough competent, big time players now. I mean, hell, they went into the playoffs a year ago with Fiala there and got bounced. I still have questions about the head coach. Like, there's a lot of things here that we're seeing play out that I find to be very interesting.
Totally.
And I'm guessing Bill Guerin does too. But, yes, if you can get a guy at the right price, but I think the closer that we get to March 3rd, the right price goes out the window because somebody's going to pay a dumb price. And if you look, Dex, right now, the competitive teams left in both conferences, like as far as potential playoff teams, I got to think that somebody's going to swoop in and make what the Wild would consider to be a dumb deal. And I just don't see Bill Guerin making a dumb deal for a team that he invested in way more last season and didn't get the return on.
Absolutely.
Reckless speculation.
Little piece of reckless speculation here from listener Brandon, who emails in via the SKOR North app. Big fan of Judd's hockey show. He says, "Hey guys, I want to get your thoughts on something. I agree with you that this Wild team is not a cup contender right now, and Billy G made it clear that he is not going to give up the farm this year by even paying for Ryan O'Reilly's contract. So, if we aren't going in this year, why not get the most value for what we have now through trading the value? I'm not talking about trade. I am talking, about trading Gus Bus. I am talking about trading Filip Gustavsson. No one is talking about this. Everyone is bringing up Dumba and Greenway. What are we going to get for
They
them?
want him in Green Bay.
Yeah, a ham sandwich and a bag of pucks. Gus is on the last year of his contract. Why not trade him to a goalie-needy team like Vegas, LA, the Kraken? Wallsted's already the future. Cash in now. Judd, what do you think about this extremely big piece of reckless speculation from listener Brandon?
Until you mentioned this, right before we started, I hadn't even given this a second of thought. And what I'm going to do is give full credit for creativity here. Like, the amount of creativity of okay, but no, I would not do this. I think you have stumbled upon, and I'm sure that the Wild would say we didn't stumble. We knew exactly what we were doing. I think you've stumbled upon a guy. I mean, you need 2 goaltenders now. And if Wallstedt is theoretically prepared to play next season at some point here, they're going to slow cook him. And you know what? We've talked about how weird and how fickle goaltenders are. Mm-hmm. I don't really have a problem with that. But if you're going to slow cook Wallstedt and Gustavsson has been as good as he has, unless you got an absolutely through the roof asking price for him or return, no. And part of it is because there is no such thing now, and I don't think, as a true number 1 goaltender. Like, if Wallstedt's really good, he's still not going to just carry you consistently. So I'm out, but I love the speculation. Like, I absolutely love it, and I totally get it. I just don't see it as being I think that you've got perhaps a goaltender here that can pair with Wallstedt for the long term.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm curious on this. I really like it. Because it's just a volatile position. And if a team like the Kings or the Kraken want to give you their first round pick for it, I mean, dude, I at least listen to that. I entertain that offer. Gustafsson could completely turn to the goalie he was in Ottawa last year. He wasn't good. And if Wallstedt's your future, you can always find the Cam Talbots, the backup goalies. Those guys always exist in free agency. You can supplement that. Yes, the projection on Gustafsson has exceeded expectations tenfold. That's for true. But if he regresses down to a goaltender, and right now he's worth a potential first-round pick for a desperate, needy team that's looking to obviously save their goaltending, which goaltenders are always in the move. Teams are always looking, trying to make their goaltending better by the playoffs. Man, I'd be entertained by this. I don't love it. I think the Wild should probably keep him because I don't know also just the career of Fleury. Like, what if Marc-Andre wants to hang it up? Like, what if Marc-Andre says, you know what, I came back, I tried, and I'm gonna retire here.
Yeah.
I'm done. And then at least you can still bridge that gap with Gustavsson and maybe a free agent and/or Wallstead. You know, it makes the path a little easier before Jesper's ready to be your number one true guy. But man, I'm not completely out on this. I love this idea.
To be clear on Gus, he is going to be, he is not an unrestricted free agent after the season. So you do control him. Like you're going to have to pay him more,
Yep,
but he's your player. You retain the rights as a restricted free agent to him. So that's one thing to keep him. I also don't know. So if I'm Bill Guerin, I'm not going to make a big trade to like help this team because I don't think that this team is good enough to make it worth my while. That being said, I don't know that you can trade Gus Bus out from under this team. Like, I think that there's probably a happy medium here. If you were stinking up the joint and we're a non-playoff team for sure, and Gus was playing well now, I think this makes that idea a little bit more fruitful.
Sure.
But, you know, this is still a team in a playoff position, and there's one goaltender who's playing really, really well. Can you afford to be like, sorry about that, boys? So like that's a fine line. But as far as creativity points, this one goes to the top of the list.
Oh, it's great. It's
like,
a great
I'm sure
piece.
that there are some fans who are going to be like, that's the stupidest thing. Can't believe you guys discussed it. But a reckless speculation creativity report card, this gets an A. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. No, I love this. I love this piece of reckless speculation. It's great. It's very juicy.
Thank you very much for that. All right, Declan. So hockey players use knives on their feet. And one of the most important thing is that those knives are always sharp as can be. And that's done by the athletic staff, the trainers and the equipment guys. But if you have a knife in your drawer at home, and let's say it's a nice knife, but let's say it's gotten dull, just like a hockey skate might.
Yeah.
Who do you go to for your sharpening?
I go to my guy, Joseph at Vivront. I walk in just like maybe Calen Addisson does with his skates, who's being scratched a lot. Like, hey, I need these skates sharpened, right? I need to sharpen these skates. I have a confession to make. These skates are dull. I'm not moving my feet a lot, okay? I need to sharpen these skates. Same thing with my knives. I need to make sure these knives are sharpened. We don't really even assess when our knives are dull, right? Like, we don't know. We've just been using them forever. And then all of a sudden you start cutting that tomato, right? Like Chef Zolgad starts cutting a tomato and you realize, oh, it's just kind of, it's not really sharp enough. You're smushing your food. It slips and he's cutting his hand. He can't do a podcast. No, Judd will do a podcast regardless with the cut hand. I know him well enough. But I will say, I'll go to mydullknives.com or go to Vivront in downtown Wayzata to get these knives sharpened. It's okay, fellas. And it's okay, ladies, too. Go sharpen your knives. It's important to have good food. Go check out Vivront, mybadddullknives.com. It's in the link in the bio, too, if you want more information. Great deals there as well. Go to Vivront.com. Also, Judley, I do get my popcorn ready, obviously, for all big games, whether I'm watching at home or whether I'm at the movie theaters, but mostly my friends at Popped Corn in Minnetonka off Shady Oak Road off Highway 62. Great selection of popcorn, tons of different flavors from dill pickle to Southwest heat. A lot of great flavors of popcorn. Go to popcorn.com too. If you're not in the metro here in the Twin Cities, you can go to popcorn.com. Delicious popcorn. Mention in the checkout that you heard this ad too on Judd's Hockey Show. That's popcorn and popcorn.com.
Last thing for me. And
Yes,
I'll make this quick because I've expressed my disgust for this. Calen Addisson tonight, last game of a 7-game homestand against the Kings, is going to be scratched for a 4th straight game.
Uh-huh.
Why?
I think he's gonna be traded. I think he's gone. I think he's gone.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I
like,
think
why
he's
else
gone,
would
dude.
you do this?
Yep.
Like, 1 game is a warning shot, 2 games is a we're really pissed off shot, 3 games is a and 4 games is a this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and look,
I think you might be right.
I think he's going to get traded. I think there. I don't know if there's a trade like exactly in the works as we speak, but there's no other solution otherwise. Of Dean doesn't like his play. Guerin maybe doesn't like his commitment. This is me completely speculating, by the way. I'm not reporting. They don't love the way he has turned out. Whether it's off the ice and on the ice, they have not been a big fan of his. And at this point, if you're playing a 37-year-old guy who was scratched like 65% of the games this year, it's because potentially they want to ship him out of here and they don't want to risk an injury. I don't agree with this, by the way. I believe in keeping Calen Addisson and building around him.
I'm not disgusted at you.
That has to be the reason, man. Like, there's no other reason for it to be.
So how did Matt Dumba make it for so long then?
Even that. That's another good one.
But I mean, they're very similar in original skill set, right? Yep. Offensive guys, defensive lapses. I mean, Matt Dumba is a stronger player, or he was, but you know, they put up with more BS from Dumba. I mean, Bill Guerin obtained Calen Addisson from Pittsburgh in the Zucker trade and had seen him and had been part of the brass that brought him into Pittsburgh. I think you're right. I think they're going to trade him. And I feel like now and this might be totally wrong, but I feel like now to a lesser extent that this is sort of like what the Coyotes are doing to Chychrun.
Yeah,
Chychrun hasn't played in like 7 games. And by the way, this is going to have to be addressed. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. You're scratching guys because you basically are afraid that they might get hurt. Chychrun could go something like 9 to 10 games without playing. That's a whole different thing. But when you have a really good player on a really bad team, and that really bad team, basically, you know, teams don't tank. Okay, yeah, they do, dummies. And here's how. The Arizona Coyotes are literally trying to forfeit games. That's a different story. But Calen Addisson not playing again, to me, yeah, I think you got to be right, man. I don't think this is a warning now. I think that this is we're going to sit your ass until we trade you. And I would love to know, like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more about to the word that you used, commitment. There has to be more that we don't know here, because like Alex Goligoski's playing.
Yeah, man, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I think he's gone, and they might. Yeah, look, you can get some value for him. He's more valuable than Greenway. He's more valuable than Dumba.
No,
so
I know. I think he might. Look at the points on the power play, Dax.
Yeah, maybe he's more of someone that helps you get Tyler Bertuzzi. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's someone that can help you get him. So, and I know Judd's more upset because that means he also has to watch Alex Goligoski play like 14 minutes tonight, and he's not. I just have a lot of.
Well, you know what? It's not so much Bill. I just have a lot of questions when it comes to Dean.
Yeah, I think they work hand in hand a little bit, but yes, I do think Dean sometimes pulls more, and he should. He's the head coach. Right.
I just question some of the. I question what he wants to see, and I question. Here's what worries me. What worries me is this, and I'm not joking here. They've got a lot of young players coming up, which is awesome. Like, they've built a farm system. Good for them. It's really good. Heck, the Athletic has it #1 in the entire league. Is Dean the guy to manage these guys?
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of mistakes. There's going to be attitudes that are issues. I mean, these are young human beings, young males, very unpredictable people. When I look at how he handles guys and what he skews to, someday you're going to have to accept the fact that Marco Rossi is far more important and needs to be playing way more than Frederick Goudreau.
Mm-hmm.
Are you the guy to do that? That's what worries me. The whole Calen thing to me, because look, these guys are young guys. They're going to do stupid things off the ice. On the ice, they're going to do stupid things. Are you the guy to manage those guys? Because I tell you what, it's one thing to have these guys rated, hey, they're really good. It's another to cultivate them into professional hockey players. And yes, you want them to be responsible players, two-way players. That's great. But if the ramifications are going to be, hey, Bill, will you sign this old fogey from a nursing home, Bill? Because I might want to replace Marco Rossi with Father Bleeping Time, because Father Time gets back on defense. Give me a break.
Hey, by the way, you can check out University of St. Thomas hockey this weekend. They're wrapping up their regular season against Bemidji State this weekend at St. Thomas Ice Arena before the CCHA quarterfinals take place here in a couple weeks. But they wrap up their regular season this weekend home against Bemidji State. Go to TommySports.com to buy tickets, or you can hear the games on 1500 ESPN2 right here in the Twin Cities. Go to TommySports.com to go watch Tommy's hockey. And a last shout out to the Choice Bank Minnesota Golf Show. Hockey players like golf, right? Judd Zulgad kind of likes golf. I think he likes golf.
I like golf. I just don't play it.
Which
Vikings Town Hall, though. Purple Daily.
We'll get you to swing a club, maybe a 9-iron. Maybe you'll tee it high, let it fly on a driver. A new hybrid. There's plenty of options there.
No,
but you can definitely talk hockey. You can talk Judd's ear off about Alex Goligoski playing more than Calen Addisson, and he will happily oblige right at the 19th hole there at the Choice Bank Minnesota Golf Show. Go to SKOR North app to get your tickets now. All right, Judley. Programming note: AJ Fredrickson. Speaking of being healthy scratches, I'm healthy scratching myself, God willing, with this weather. Yeah. I'm supposed to be out of town here about in a little more than 24 hours. I'm hopefully on a plane. But AJ will be in to talk some hockey with you and Jess potentially tomorrow and later on this week. So you and AJ will be guiding the ship here after that. But hit the subscribe button for daily Minnesota sports entertainment. This has been Judd's Hockey Show and Pass Shoot Score.
There's no room for petty bull.